Hi everybody, my name is Esteban and welcome to my channel. Today I would like to present to you the Marvel Legends X-Men ladies that I have in my collection at this point in time. So let's get the show started, shall we? Let's go and start with the upper left hand corner where we have the classic version of Storm in her white costume. Storm, also known as Aurora Monroe, is a daughter of a tribal princess of Kenya, and her father was an African American photographer. According to Wikipedia, her parents died during the Arab-Israeli conflict, and when she became an orphan until she was rescued and taken to School of Gifted by Professor X. She is capable of controlling lightning and storm, and she had several different costumes in the comics and in the cartoons. Now Marvel Legends have made at least 5 different costumes that she wore over the decades. Out of those 5, I have 3 at the present time, so this would be one particular version, the most known one. I will show some of her variations and some of the other ladies in this group who have figure variations in another video. So that would be as far as Storm goes. Another classic character and a member of the X-Men would be Phoenix, and this particular version of Phoenix is the one who is on the good side, and she's wearing her dark green costume. Phoenix in reality is Jean Grey, a longtime member and one of the founding members of the X-Men. And here is just one version of her. There is another version that Hasbro has released at a different point in time where she's wearing her red costume. That's when she was completely overtaken by the Phoenix Force and became evil. Now this Phoenix stand that you see that I attached at the back of her is not really part of this figure. It belongs to a much older version of Phoenix from the Toy Biz Marvel Legends from at least several years before this figure was released. But I was fiddling around and realized that she can be attached onto that stand just the same. So I decided then to go ahead and use it. And then next to her we have the classic version of Jean Grey before she becomes the Phoenix. Now Jean Grey had also several different costume variations over a period of time, especially from her first appearance onwards. And she has been a known member of the X-Men, and she has a romance with the leader of the X-Men, Cyclops. Her powers specifically would include telepathy, so she's a very strong telepath, right along the ranks with Professor X. And there is, as I said, a few more versions of her. Those other versions I intend to show in another video. I don't have every single version of her, but a few I do. She has also been known to be a member of the Hellfire Club, that is a completely different group of mutants who are bent on taking over the world. While she was a member with them, she was known as the Black Queen, which coincidentally is the same code name for Emma Frost, another member of the Hellfire Club, who also switched sides and became a member of the X-Men. So next to her we have Emma Frost, or the Black Queen. This is the version that was exclusive to EB Games, which is a chain of gaming stores in Canada. There is at least 2 more versions of her that were made, and unfortunately this is the only one that I have at this present time. The other 2 versions show her in her costume the way she appears in the Hellfire Club, since there is a box set that was recently released that she is part of it. And then there is a much older figure also of her, where she's also wearing a white costume, and that particular figure is even more difficult to get because her character is very much in demand. Now, the Black Queen also has romantic interest in Cyclops. So at some point they were together for a while, and there was a whole different set of stories involving the two of them. Now, moving along onto the middle row here, starting again from the left, we have Jubilee, one of the most classic and well-known characters from the X-Men, and she's been a long-time member of the X-Men. Jubilee has the powers she actually has a specific power, which is to create energy, pyrotechnic energy blasts from her hands. And in the old and quite known 90s X-Men animated series, she has been known to have a close friendship with Wolverine, who she was always looking up to and tagging along with him. Now, next to her, we have, of course, this would not be Jubilee, even though the hairstyle looks similar. This would be Dazzler. Now, Dazzler is another member of who closely worked with X-Men and in other groups as well. And this is just one version out of two that were made in Marvel Legends. Her original looks date back to 1970s, when her look was pretty much 70s inspired, and she looked like a young woman who just stepped out of a 70s disco club. So this particular look that you see here was developed at a later time, so roughly 80s, I believe early 90s. So she looks quite different in appearance compared to her original look. Then, moving along here, the lady holding a samurai sword would be Psylocke. Psylocke is also a known member of the X-Men and a mutant as well. And she has a particular set of skills and powers. She's very good she's an accomplished martial artist, and she also is able to create energy weapons, psychic energy weapons, and blades. As you can tell, she's able, at least this particular figure, has her sword that's covered in the psychic energy, and she also creates a battle mask. And she came in a Hasbro Marvel Legends 3-pack. But there is a classic version of her, and this unfortunately is not that, because the classic version, she has a particular costume that she's wearing. So I was lucky to just find this particular one. So there is at least two more versions that I know of from Hasbro that were made of her. This is just one of 3 or 4 known ones out there. And I don't find her to be bad in any way. She still looks great, in my opinion. Some of her other powers include telekinesis and telepathy as well. Now, next to her, we have Rogue. Rogue, according to the X-Men animated series from the 90s, have gained her powers when she absorbed them in a fight with Miss Marvel. During that fight, she was able to absorb a good portion of her powers and put Miss Marvel in catatonic state for a while. And that was not intentional, that she wanted to permanently, literally disable Miss Marvel, but due to the circumstances of the fight, she held on to her a little bit too long and absorbed quite a bit of power, which sent Miss Marvel into a shock. She became a superhero and she joined the X-Men, and she has superhuman strength. She has power of light. She can absorb enemies' powers and use those powers as part of her skills, at least for the time being. And just like Jean Grey, and Emma Frost, she also has a love interest within the X-Men, and that would be Gambit. Now, more about Gambit and other fellas in another video. This is one of 3 versions of Rogue that Hasbro has made, and this is a more resembling her classic look from the cartoon and the comics from back in the 90s. Now, there is at least 2 more versions of her out there. One particular version, which has a very different looking costume, which is mostly green and white, came packaged with Pyro, an evil, a member of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Now, at this point in time, I have only this version of her, and I do have some that are from the Toy Biz era, when the Toy Biz used to make Marvel Legends, but those particular rogues will be part of a separate discussion. Now, moving along then to the final row here, the very front row, and the first character on the left here that we have would be Queen Lilandra. Now, for those of you who have been longtime fans of Marvel Legends, you probably are aware that there is no official figure of Queen Lilandra. But what Hasbro has done is that when they have released Queen Lilandra, or sorry, when they have released, sorry, slight correction there, they did not release her, but when they released a classic version of Mystique, they have included 2 alternate heads so that you can sort of mimic Mystique's power of morphing into other characters. And one of those heads was this particular one of Queen Lilandra. Now, the matter was, will they ever release the actual figure of Queen Lilandra, which at this point is not known. But I did the same thing as many of you and many of the other people out there on the internet have done. I have tried my hand at customizing and see if I can make her out of some of the already existing parts and such. So most people, including myself, have used the body of Silver Sable that you see right here, holding the 2 guns, because she comes in silver. Her costume comes in a silver color, which roughly matches the color of Lilandra's helmet. So some people would simply put 2 and 2 together and get Lilandra, and then of course they would remove all these belts and try to put a cape on her and some kind of power stuff that they would usually take from another character, for example, Namor. In my case, I did not really want it to go that far, and I just wanted to keep her a bit more simple. The way I see her, she would be more like in a constant fight against her evil sister, Deathbird, who is always trying to take over the throne of the Shi'ar Empire. And I seem to understand that there were always changes. At first she had a brother who was very conniving, which was, I believe, changed, that later became her sister. So, but that's the whole point, that there's always a struggle in her world to replace her and put somebody else on the throne. So the way I see her is as a warrior queen rather than decked out in all the royal regalia and such. So I didn't really change a whole lot about the Silver Sable body. I pretty much left everything intact, and I just put the head on top. And this is how I envision her. I might change her further down the line, but that remains to be seen. Now, one thing that Lilandra is very well known for is for her long-term romance with Professor X. And they have been together for quite a long time. I do understand in some newer comics they broke their relationship off. So I am not ardently really following all the latest X-Men stories or anything from Marvel or DC. Occasionally I read a story or 2, but I am not a hardcore follower. So I'm not sure at the present what is her status. Now, moving along to the next character here, we have X-23. She might be very familiar to some of you because she appeared in the final movie about Wolverine, where she was portrayed also when she already gained her powers. In some circles she's known as the daughter of Wolverine, but in reality she was also in a similar way experimented upon, and she gained very much the same kind of powers as Wolverine. She has retracting claws coming out of her hands, so instead of 3 claws coming out, it would be only 2, and then there is also spikes coming out of her feet as well. And she has very much the same kind of powers and skills as Wolverine, being able to reheal, being laced with adamantium, and so forth and so forth. Now, this particular version is just 1 out of 2 that were made. People were not quite happy with this particular version of her, but I honestly don't see much wrong with her. She looks alright to me. She's not as tall, and I guess in the comics and of course in the movie she's not meant to be very tall. So The one problem I find with her would be specifically the articulation on her elbows, which doesn't look as good as it could be. And other than that, I think she looks alright. Now, there is another version that was made at a later point, belonging to a different wave of Marvel Legends, where she's wearing very much identical spandex yellow suit, like that of Wolverine. And she looks somewhat more mature in that particular version, and that particular version in spandex is the one that I've been having a hard time finding her, and now people are trying to ask a bit too much for her. So I'm just happy to have at least this one at this point in time. And then next to her, we have Blink. Now, I seem to understand, according to my research, and especially according to Wikipedia, that Blink has two particular versions. One part of the mainstream heroes on our Earth, and then there is this other version that you see in front of you, which is part of the Age of Apocalypse storyline. And I didn't know that until I started reading a bit more about her biography, that there were two different versions. So this version here would be the one from the Age of Apocalypse. She came with some sort of sharp crystal shard weapons, and a sort of a, how would I call it, a plastic pink energy circle that goes around, that you can put around her, or some such. But what I know about her through my research is that she's been a member of the X-Men that had a completely different set of members in the Age of Apocalypse story. She has been she was born as a mutant, and at the time when Apocalypse decided to take over Earth, and specifically the entire North America, he was able to capture her using one of his horsemen, in particular Mr. Sinister, who discovered her and then took her and performed some experiments on her together with the Dark Beast. The two of them perfected her powers and practically recruited her into the Apocalypse army to be able to enslave the North America as a whole. Now, during that particular storyline, I seem to understand that Weapon X and Sabretooth, at least those incarnations, the incarnations of the two of them in that storyline, did a raid on the headquarters of Apocalypse, and they rescued Blink in the process. Now, from that moment onwards, Blink would always refer to Sabretooth as her adoptive father, and she would usually address him as Mr. Creed. Now, all these little details are not known to me because, as I said, I have not really followed a whole lot. I know a bit about the Age of Apocalypse from the X-Men animated series from back in the 90s, and that particular show was introduced to me by my wife, who is an ardent X-Men fan. So I was quite grateful for that because I learned a great deal about X-Men and other groups affiliated with them. So yes, this is the only version of Blink that is released at this point in time. There is an older version of her that dates back to the 90s in the 5-inch, in the 5-inch size done by Toy Biz, a company that doesn't exist anymore. But even that very first version from, some 3-4 decades ago looked exactly the same as this one. So they were still trying to portray and show Blink the way she looked in the Age of Apocalypse storyline. And then, to finish off this story, we're going to talk about Boom Boom, a character that's relatively new to me. Now, in regards to Boom Boom, she's able to also create a type of explosive blasts from her hands. And the figure itself, when I saw it, almost made me think that she resembles Jubilee to some extent, a sort of a more mature-looking Jubilee. But then I realized, reading at the back of the package and so forth, that this is not Jubilee, this is a completely different character. She has been in a romantic relationship, the Boom Boom here has been in a romantic relationship with a guy, a fellow who is also a mutant called Cannonball. And all I know is that she's been affiliated with X-Men and several other groups. And at this point in time, this is the only known figure of her. I do not recall seeing this particular character in the vintage Marvel Toy Biz X-Men line from back in the 90s, but I still think she looks pretty good. I wish that some of these figures of the X-Men ladies that you see here, I wish that at least that most of them would actually come with alternate hands, because many of them do not. Now, I'm not really sure why is that. Why is that really an issue or a problem to include some extra hands? Let's say to give them the hands that are shaped like fists. So some of them do have it, some don't. In particular, I would say Storm doesn't come with any. Dazzler here doesn't. Boom Boom as well, and a couple of other ones. It would be interesting to at least make it a bit of a more of a selection by including a bit more accessories with them. So they most of them have been usually shortchanged when it comes to accessories or some such, or at least alternate hands. But in reality, I'm quite happy with the ones I have so far. So this would be just the first video on the subject of the Marvel ladies in general, but I decided to start with the X-Men ones first. So there will be more to come. In the next video, I hope to cover some of the variations of the characters that you see here, that I have in the action figure form, along with some other X-Men ladies and enemies that they have. So more about that next time. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you see, please do subscribe and put a like, and I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.